Let's go ahead and get started. This is Maria ALEGRE from Chartboost, one of the founders of Chartboost. And take it away.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. So today I'm going to talk about dogs and cats living together, frenemies in Freemium. So what does that mean? We're seeing a trend in mobile gaming that game developers are actually working with each other, and it's games that it looks like they should be competing because they're all on the App Store fighting to get users, but we're seeing this trend where actually games are working together and partnering in very different ways. So we're going to explore a little bit of that trend, and I'm going to be exploring two questions. Why is this happening, and also how is this happening? So before we get to that, I want to give you a little bit of background about myself. So I'm one of the founders and CEO of Chartboost. Before Chartboost, I was at Tapulous. Tapulous was one of the first companies on mobile gaming on the App Store. We were the company behind Tap Tap Revenge. So I joined when the company had 5 million users and helped the company grow to 50 million users. And then the company was acquired by Walt Disney in 2010 to run Disney Mobile. Okay, so moving into the talk, the two questions that I mentioned. First of all, why is this happening? Okay, so there's two answers to that question. First of all, I believe this is happening because the pie is actually growing. Mobile gaming is already a big pie, but the market is growing very fast. And game developers, they realize that the big battle is not about getting each other's market share. It's about helping this industry continue growing and getting more and more people interested in games. So we're seeing that there's all these studies that people that buy tablets, there's like 74% of them that say they were not gamers before they had a tablet, and now they are playing all these games. So, well, that's like a small example of the trend that we're seeing, that this is an industry that it's growing, it's growing very fast every year, so game developers are just focused on that, and instead of focusing on fighting against each other. So that's one of the reasons of why this frenemies trend is happening. The other one, I call it the shelf problem. So there's a big difference between what we used to see on console gaming. So console gaming, the game developer had to go through a publisher. This publisher would own the relationship with the retailer, and this retailer would control the shelf. So that was kind of the way to get in the shelf. In the mobile gaming ecosystem, game developers are jumping a bunch of these steps, and a game developer can actually go directly to the shelf, which is the App Store. The only problem is that it's a much smaller shelf. There's hundreds of thousands of apps, hundreds of thousands of games, and only a small percentage can get discovered on the App Store. So that's a big problem that game developers are facing right now, and the challenge is how to improve that shelf space. So one of the most successful answers that game developers have been able to give to that problem has been partnering. Oops. What's wrong? So one of the answers has been partnering with other game developers. And I'm going to show a couple of examples of how these games are actually partnering with each other to promote each other games. And that's kind of one of the most obvious examples of frenemies. Games that should be competing with each other, so it looks like they're competing, they're actually working together to increase that shelf space. So I was doing some research yesterday, and these are some of the examples I found. I went to Tiny Tower and saw that in Tiny Tower they're promoting Ballooned, which is a new application by this indie studio. based in Toronto, I believe. So that's one example. Then I went to Temple Run and realized that Temple Run was actually promoting a bunch of games in their More Games page. One of them is Hit Tennis, the other one, Pocket Planes. Then I went to Pocket Planes, and they were also promoting this balloon game. And then completely different app, Fruit Ninja, they were promoting Whale Trail. So you see how these games, they have this way of, in an integrated way, being able to promote another game that they're liking. And they have these news feeds, they have these interstitials that are customized, or these More Games page. But in the end, it's games that are promoting other games, increasing the shelf space of these games they like. Going back here. So this all ties up together in a network. And this is a network that games that like each other. And these games all together are creating this portfolio effect. It's a bunch of gaming companies that they're able to, well, they choose to launch 1 or 2 or 3 games every year. They're not launching 40 games every year. But they work together to create this portfolio effect, this network that makes them more powerful and that increases the shelf space. And the truth is that gamers, they like diversity and they like more content. And they're going to go every weekend to the App Store to be looking for new games and new ways of spending their time. So these game developers recognize that, and instead of saying, no, like, oh, you should only be playing my game, they recognize that these games, the gamers are going to be looking for other games, so they choose to recommend games that they actually like. So is there an alternative to this frenemy relationship? So in my mind, the alternative is what other huge companies are doing, which is building that portfolio themselves. That doesn't mean that these portfolio companies are not partnering with other game developers, but it does mean that they have the resources and they choose to launch 20 or 40 games every year. So I picked a couple of examples of companies that are doing that. So Tinyco, Pocket Gems, Beeline. They have a big network of games. They're able to increase that shelf space by launching 20, 40 games every year. Animoca, Backflip, Outfit 7. So there's many examples on the App Store of how these companies, they're able to create that portfolio effect by themselves. So basically, those are the 2 of the alternatives to create that portfolio effect, partnering or just deciding to focus on that volume and doing it yourself. So back to the frenemies. So it looks like all of these apps are actually super successful apps, and how do I get to become part of this elite group? But actually, I wanted to focus the attention on these 2 games that are not necessarily that well known yet. They are coming from 2 independent studios. So first one is Mark Johnson. He's based in San Francisco. The company is called Focused Apps, and he recently launched this game, Hit Tennis 3, that already has 4 million users and got in the top 5, and was able to do that by doing a bunch of partnerships with many of his frenemies. The second one that I saw yesterday was being promoted by both Tiny Tower and Pocket Planes was Pixel Cube, balloon game. So what I'm trying to say with this slide is you don't have to be a half-break to be part of these frenemy deals. Like, there's a lot of developers that are able to build quality games and work on these partnerships. So I'm going to move on to the next question, which is how. How are companies doing that? How are these relationships happening? And what should you, like, how you should be trying to be part of that, and then what are the tools that these companies are using? So first of all, quality. These frenemies relationships, they're made between game developers. So game developers need to like the other game developers' games. And there's this filtering of just wanting to partner with games that you want to recommend to your users because you believe this is a good game. So this is an important filter that happens in this frenemies relationship. Second one, how is this happening? Well, all of these conferences are the perfect setting to set up this relationship. So Casual Connect Seattle, Singapore, GDC Europe, San Francisco, Mobile Games Congress in Barcelona, Unite in Amsterdam, Mobile Games Forum. There's a bunch of industry events. Some of them are global, some of them are more local in specific cities. And in general, this is the perfect setting to set up the basis and the relationships for future partnerships. So I encourage everyone here to try to connect during these events with other game developers and try to set up the basis for that. We're seeing also this happening just with, I mean, the physical events is one way. Of course, there's all these online forums where people are also connecting. There's just the UK community and the Toronto community that are like all these like city-based communities that are also doing a lot of partnerships. So this is one way. It's not the only way. And the second answer of how is what are the tools that people are using to get this done. So I promised I wouldn't talk about my company, so I'm going to talk about other tools. And so first of all, these relationships are based on trust, and it's a partnership between two game developers. It's not a big contract and big legal agreements. It's just gaming companies that find each other here, and they're deciding to partner. In the end, it's all engineers, so they know how to build their own tools to track these things. And it can be as easy as using Bitly. It can be you build your own system and share the data with Excel files, or it can be using third-party technologies that are actually able to provide that technology to power these frenemies relationships. Okay, so that brings me to the end. I mean, what I wanted to do with this quick presentation is get everyone to embrace the power of frenemies and to make the most of this conference and be able to think of the good ways that, everything that you can learn and like all the good results you can get by partnering with other game developers. So I promised I wouldn't talk about my company, but it's...
No, you should talk about your company a little bit.
There's one thing. So we're doing this burger challenge right now. Like we have a food truck and we're challenging we can integrate our SDK faster that you can eat a burger. So we are giving away free burgers outside. But, well, that's the only thing I wanted to mention. I don't want to get more details about Chartboost.
Okay, maybe you should take just a minute and talk about what Chartboost does.
Okay, so as I mentioned, we were at Tapulous before. My co-founder was the first engineer there, and we learned all these. I mean, we were there on day one of the App Store. So we've been in this industry for 4 years. We're a young company, but we've been there for a long time. And we realized that this frenemies trend was I mean, we were part of it, right? Like we were partnering with other gaming companies to buy and sell traffic, and sometimes it's an exchange, but sometimes it's buying and selling, and it was a good way for us to make a ton of money. And it's the same technology we use to cross-promote our own games, our Tap Revenge. So we were one of these companies that had built a portfolio and had like 20 or 40 Tap Revenge. It was a franchise, and every time we launch a new game, we're able to leverage that distribution power. So what we're building at Chartboost is that technology, that third-party technology that can power these, we call it direct deals. And we're offering that cross-promotion technology for free for all of these frenemies relationships and for your internal cross-promo. And if you want more details, I'll let you know about how we make money, but that's the core of what we do.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maria. So we have a little bit of time for some questions. Does anybody in the audience have questions for Maria? How many here are already using some sort of cross-promotional strategy for promoting their games? Oh, that's not bad. How many are going to after hearing this presentation? Oh. Some few of you still out there that think that that's competitive? Yeah? Is that why? Give me an example. Why wouldn't you use cross-promotion for your games? Nobody
you don't know what you're doing?
We're still sleeping.
All right, thank you very much, Maria.
I have one question, Maria. We use Chartboost and we love it. Have you guys seen any trends in when you say frenemies? So, you know, we have like a casino game and we want to, or a physics game and we want to share traffic with someone else. Do people? It seems to me like people want to choose like games that are not too close to their games. Is that what you guys see? And have you done any analysis on that at Chartboost?
So we see that people don't want to compete. They don't want to do these relationships with a game that is the exact same game. So it's like a farm with a farm or slots game with a slots game. But what we're offering is, so we have a network where companies can at the same time be like doing these deals with 50 companies. This is the part of the company we actually make money. Everything else is free. So in that network, companies are able to, it's completely transparent, so you see who are your best fits. And like your best fit, sometimes it's a game that is exactly the same because the user just likes that. But it can be a game that is different, but like we measure the best fit by the click-through rates, right? And click-through rates on average are 10%, but sometimes it's 30%. That means that user loves that other game, and it's a good match of users. And that's how it's a data-driven approach to decide to do this frenemies relationship that we call direct deals. So you do it with the games that are a good fit, which sometimes is the same exact game, but many times it's another game. It's
the same audience for a different game.
Same audience, exactly.
All right, thanks.
I do cross-promotion with directly competitive games only under the circumstance where I'm fairly confident that my game is better. If your game sucks, don't do it. Any other questions? All right, let's move on then. Thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you.
So we've got a couple of